Synthaholics.
Welcome to Synthaholics. Thank you so much for downloading this episode. Today you have myself, Aaron O'Brien, and David Duncan. What's up, Dave?
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the deadest one of all?
Yeah, I know, right? Dave, we are on to the Star Trek Discovery episode 9 of Season 3, Terra Firma Part 1. This is first aired December 10th, 2020. A lot of interesting stuff happening here. Without getting into spoilers, just in the beginning, hot take without revealing anything.
Well, I love this episode, and I hated this episode. And I can't say why without getting into spoilers. I mean, I guess I could just say why without getting into spoilers. Why is because they've taken a side tangent that has nothing to do with the overall story. And it's going to continue into next episode, obviously, because it's called Part 1. Actually, no, not obviously, because we still haven't gotten a Part 2 to the very first episode of the season. That was also had a Part 1 in it. So, presumably next episode is a Part 2. It ends like there'll be a Part 2. But, yeah, it was fun. It was super fun episode. It just feels like they have so little to do, so little story to tell, even though they set up this, like, interesting plot, but they just keep forgetting about it. It's just kind of like Picard. I just feel like they set it up, and we're not going to talk about it, or we're going to forget to start the algorithm up again.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God.
We'll get to that, but yeah, it's a little frustrating.
How about you?
I feel the same way. There's a lot of fun parts of this episode, a lot of interesting things. I just wish they didn't take it to the last part where they in the halfway through this. I just wish we could avoid where they took it, but they did it. And there's parts of it I thought was interesting, and I'll get into it, but it was not where I wanted it to be. So,
also one thing at the beginning really pissed me off. That was probably the lowest point in the episode for me, but after that, it got pretty good.
Well, let's get into full spoilers so we can talk about it. Yeah, we start off with Dr. Kolber and Kovich, the Section 31 guy, who is obviously David Cronenberg, and they're talking about Philippia Georgiou, and basically Georgiou's condition is getting pretty bad because she's jumped multiple times through space and time.
And because she's jumped over from the mirror universe.
Right, because you've jumped to different time streams, because you do it multiple times, it can start messing with you because you apparently your molecules only like to live in the time they're created,
This is what I hated. It's like, oh, time travel makes you sick. That's why we banned time travel. I'm just like, oh. Well,
that wasn't why they banned it, but they said one of the reasons why, because they get into Lieutenant Commander Yor, and he is deceased soldier from the Temporal Wars, Dave, which you were looking forward to hearing something or seeing something about them.
I'm sad he wasn't a Zulaban, because it seemed like he had Zulaban vibe to him, but I don't know what he was.
He looked like he might have been a Riemann, but I'm not. Maybe? Oh no, I just looked him up. He's no, he's not a Riemann. He's a Betelgeusian, and they were introduced in the motion picture. You'll see them in the background in the motion picture, but they were just floating around aliens. So if you look up motion picture,
random
alien signs, they were one of them that showed up, and they looked very different. They had I think a mouth thing over them, but yeah. So and he is wearing obviously a Next Generation
season 1
uniform, and Interesting enough, they talk about the J.J. Abrams reboot.
Yes, they mentioned he also had crossed over to the Kelvin timeline.
Right.
Which one thing I really hated that time travel makes you sick. I'm just like like really weird. I hate it when Star Trek does like really dumb like explanations for things. Like you like trying to leave the galaxy gives you superhuman abilities, makes you godlike. I'm like that's stupid. And then also this is just makes me mad. That
Well, it's interesting because he says, because Cronenberg's character Kovic says that Giorgio was the only person to have traveled across both time and dimension besides this Lieutenant Commander Yor. And I mean, God, man, I mean, like, hasn't Spock, like Kirk and crew, I mean, like, and I know we've run into different variations of the Enterprise D and their crew through different, generations, but not all of them have traveled. Yeah, but yesterday's Enterprise was something coming through and changing their universe, but didn't necessarily. They didn't enter into another or another dimension through time and space.
Yeah.
But Spock had.
Yeah.
Spock literally going into the Kelvin universe.
Yeah,
well, I guess.
But he also didn't. Oh, he went back in time. He didn't go forward.
Went back in time, so I guess he didn't change universe, and
he did change universes, and he went back in time.
Well, he changed the universe where the time stream split just before. So.
Oh yeah, he made it a different universe, I guess.
Nero technically did, but yeah.
Oh yeah, because Nero went through second, but came through first. It's a different universe. There's two of them in that universe. I mean, it's like Doc Brown science, and I hate Doc Brown science. You meet yourself in a universe or you're in the future too long, you die. It sounds like something Doc Brown would say. That's like really iffy.
I gotta think about it a lot longer because I'm pretty sure we've seen. I mean, obviously, Kirk and crew had traveled into the Mirror Universe. Deep Space Nine characters had moved into the Mirror Universe.
But Cronenberg's also goes on to say that the reason it's hard for Giorgio is not only has she crossed over universes and moved through time, the Mirror Universe is moving further away from the Prime Universe. And I'm like, this is also a stupid thing. I don't like. That's not how things. I mean, from how parallel universes work, they're basically stacked on top of each other in a different frequency. Everything's a different frequency in the Mirror Universe. Everything's a different frequency in our universe. Everything's a different frequency, and that's how they always described. And sliders, they're always basically taking up the same place. They're just in a different frequency of time. So I just don't understand why there's this weird gap or whatever. It's they haven't crossed over because the gap's too big now. I'm like, what are you talking about? It doesn't. They just made some artificial thing where I guess they can't jump, so they can close off and never have to worry about doing Mirror Universe episodes. Except this is a Mirror Universe episode.
I know, right?
They're just setting up weird constraints for themselves and then breaking them immediately, which is just why set them up? Why? It's like Discovery.
It didn't bother me that much. It seemed like more technobabble as usual, just making shit up.
But it's dumb stuff. It's just preventing them from having fun with time travel in the future because time travel makes you sick now, so we're not going to do that.
Not just that. It says they wouldn't. This Lieutenant Commander Yor that was sick. The Federation said that he could do euthanasia because they could save him because of the interdimensional displacement restrictions or ironclad.
It's just so there's such a cruel totalitarian government where they won't use time travel to at least put someone back in their time or something just to keep them alive. I mean, it's just kind of cruel, I think. It's just.
I mean, maybe they did for certain. We don't even know the full reasons for the Temporal Wars. It isn't really spelled out what the Temporal Wars were about.
We never got a resolution to it, Enterprise, and we've only gotten 2 brief mentions to it in this season.
Right.
And Discovery relies on itself too much. Like I think they're gonna go find. I think they're gonna go to the nebula and find another discovery there, because the discovery in Calypso was in a nebula, and it's also 1,000 years in the future. So I think that's what they're gonna do. It relies on itself too much, and they don't like filling in the gaps of other Star Trek, because that's other Star Trek. This is our discovery, and we're just gonna rely on ourselves. And I'm like, just build on your world a little bit. Build on the world. Like, there's so many gaps in that temporal Cold War, and they've referenced it, and like time travel became illegal because of it. Like, why can't we talk more about this? This is interesting.
Well, Kovich tells Culber that he can't tell Giorgio about that she's dying because she would seek a way to die in battle, and that would be crazy on the ship. But then Culber's like, wait, we can just use the computer data and sync it up to our the core data on Discovery. And Kovich's like, there's no solution. And all of a sudden it's like, there's a solution. And Kovich's like, all right, so I stand corrected. So they have this solution to take her to this planet, which we get explained a little later. Later in the mess hall, we have an altercation between Tilly and Giorgio, where she just dumps her soup on top of Tilly. So
after she struggled so hard to grab a wine glass for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, so she's out of phase with the universes too.
It's just mumbo jumbo.
So then we go and Michael Burnham shows up and says, "Hey, Culber thinks he's got a solution or some development with your condition, so let's go talk to him." And we're in Saru's ready room, and Culber explains that the sphere data has found a cure, and it's this planet called Danis 5. It's an uninhabited planet in the Gamma Quadrant near the galactic rim. And so the sphere data comes up with this and says it's a good place to do it. So, and I guess the Emerald chain is like gearing up to do some military exercises. And so they don't think that Starfleet's going to allow them to go, but then Admiral Vance says, yeah, take her. So whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's he just like, yeah, sure, whatever. That's fine. I like Vance was a hard ass. Now he's just like a pushover. He's just like, yeah, you do what you do, you Discovery.
Right. So
it's so weird. He's gone on a total like 180, and like nothing has come down on them.
Well,
from the last episode.
Vance tells Saru and says, you know, I used to be kind of like a by the book and let people like, you know, perish basically under his command. And it's like, I felt like an idiot doing that. I shouldn't have done that. I made a lot of mistakes. Don't make the same mistakes I made, Saru. So like, okay.
So now he's like playing fast and loose with the rules too. So is he going to give Michael a get out of jail free card here? I don't.
Well, I mean, Michael hasn't done anything really yet.
Well, no.
But he says, don't. I read your thing about what happened with Arium. Don't let that happen again. And like, okay. So I guess he's been reading Michael's personnel file.
Oh, absolutely. After her blatant disrespect for the chain of command, like the first half of the season, yeah, he should be. Right. He should be doing some reading up on her. But they basically started a war with the Emerald Chain last episode, and he doesn't come down on them at all. Which is like, I mean, I guess it was brewing anyway, but Osira basically condemns them, even though they used book ship. Like, that seems like pretty blatant.
Yeah,
and he doesn't care. He doesn't come down hard to Discovery or Saru or Emily Count's Detmer.
Yeah.
It was just I was expecting some flack for that. Got nothing.
Then we see Giorgio kind of working out on punching bags, and Burnham goes in to talk to her, and then Giorgio starts attacking Burnham,
like you do.
Yeah. Anyway, so Burnham gives her some kind of wristband with a bioscanner that's supposed to monitor her condition. So
it's way thicker than a Fitbit. You'd think they'd have this like, you know, slimmer.
Yeah, I know, right?
Considering their badge is a tricorder, a transporter, and all this,
basically everything.
Everything, and the badge is smaller than that.
Discovery takes a spore drive to Danis 5, and then Giorgio and Burnham beam down. We have a moment where Tilly hugs Giorgio. I was a little bit, okay, guys, like, can we stop with the fucking hugging? It's like, you are officers. You are officers.
This is Hug Trek, the next generation.
This is the part where I'm like, I get a little frustrated with Discovery. It's like
the lack of professionalism.
I mean, I can think of only a few times in all Trek where different crewmates hug each other. And I mean, we're not talking the romantic side of things. Like, they just hug each other out of like friendship or caring or stuff like that. I mean, there have been moments, but not like this.
I mean, like in Time of Muck, I mean, like, Kirk doesn't hug, so he grabs him by the arms, and they almost kind of hug because he's like...
No, Spock is
Spock grab, yeah.
Final Frontier, Kirk's going to hug Spock, and he says, please not from the Klingons.
I mean, there's just, like, this air of, like, professionalism that the crew of Discovery just doesn't have. I mean, like, in private, sure. Like, they're in the quarters,
Yeah, there's moments, where, like, Troy hugs Riker or stuff like that. Or, I mean, there are moments like that, of course.
But, like, they're in 10 forward or in the holodeck or in quarters. I don't think it's ever happened, like, in the transporter room or in the hallways.
Right.
Or
not often it has. And I'm thinking, like, even Enterprise, I'm thinking Deep Space Nine, Voyager.
Like anything other than formalities were usually done, like, in quarters or in the holodeck, like in the bar, like places where you're off duty and like can be laid back. I don't know. There's just a weird like air of non-professional on Discovery. It's just really weird, which is why like I think you and I keep saying it doesn't feel like Star Trek because it's like a family sitcom or something. Sure.
Well. I don't want to, devolve the conversation too much, and the other thing is there was always not just professionalism, but there was like an air of stoicism in all the characters. They had that stoic persona where, I mean, yes, not that they never got emotional, but most of the time they kept their emotions in check.
Yeah.
Like Worf probably being one of the worst.
He was just angry all the time.
He was always trying to, I just watched one of the Next Gen and where he was like, wanted to do something really rash, and Picard was like, "No, we're not going to do that."
Well, there's a whole 10-minute clip of Worf being told no over and over and over again. It's pretty great on YouTube.
But yeah, so I get kind of frustrated, and it's like, okay, maybe they're more a touchy-feely crew. I guess some crews could be different, but this seems weird. So yeah, so they're going to beam down to this planet, this Danis 5. So they beam down Georgiou and Michael Burnham. In engineering, Adira is having trouble with the distress call being descrambled by this algorithm, and Paul Stamets comes in. He's like, "Oh, you just made this little mistake. You forgot to reset this one thing when you restart the algorithm." And she's like, "Oh, I'm an idiot." So
this is out of character for her because she was like, she figured out that the spore drive was connected to the bridge by looking at it for a second, and now she can't even hit the unpause button. Seriously?
Honestly, I think this is literally a way to hit the pause button on the main plot.
Well, I mean, that's all they do is hit the pause button on the main plot.
But that's what this is. That's exactly what this is. So they don't have to get into what the distress call is and everything, or get too far into it. But they do get the message, and it's a little
it's a teaser.
Fragmented, but it's a teaser to the next thing. Next scene, we get Book coming to Saru saying, "Hey, I got some information about blah blah blah, but also I might want to join up with Discovery and Starfleet." And Saru's like, "Well, great, cool." So at least he made his intentions known.
And Saru doesn't give him a holodeck program to start working on stuff or anything. What? It's just like, your time will come, maybe.
You'll be a crewman at best.
Good luck. Yeah, you won't even be Harry Kim, an ensign. You'll just be a crewman. Crewman Book.
Crewman Book. Danis 5.
You'll be in the transporter room for 7 seasons.
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah, the Chief O'Brien.
That would be great if Book becomes O'Brien. He just has to stand there.
It's like, God damn it, I was having way more fun as a courier.
This is how you earn your stripes, the way O'Brien did.
No. Danis 5 on this ice planet is basically the Canadian backwoods somewhere.
I mean, like, it's just, I mean, this is nitpicky, but it's like, oh, this is the coordinates we're supposed to be, and it cuts away, and then they cut back, and like, oh, we've got to walk like 16 miles, and I was like, oh no, are they going to walk in the shape of a delta again, like they did in the opener for the show? They're walking a big delta.
Actually, I was impressed that where they were, I couldn't see any other footprints of snow, so they must have dusted all the snow off so they could didn't look like the crew and everybody standing there.
Yeah, they did a good job.
But they're like, there's nothing here. I'm like, well, you're in a forest, so there's something there. So they start walking, and they find, strangely, a man named Carl with a cigar reading a newspaper on an animatronics chair and a door that's just
the scary door.
Kind of sitting there, just doing its own thing. And in the paper, it says, Emperor Georgou dies horrible, painful death. And they're just like, and he starts saying these weird like puns and stuff like that, and they're
really
just like,
really bad jokes. I'm like, I hope he's a Q, but he's probably just something that's unique to the planet that the Sphere Data knew of. But I kind of hope he's a Q because his like wearing old kind of clothes. I mean, first time we saw Q, he put on like 22nd century clothes and old admiral's clothes, and he tells like bad joke. I mean, like I don't think Q ever told like really bad jokes, but I mean, like I could see this sort of being a Q, but at the same time, Discovery likes to do its own thing, so I'm scared it's not. And I'm like, it could be fun if he was a Q.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that maybe he would be the Guardian, like sort of like the Guardian Forever kind of thing. Maybe not quite the same thing, but something similar. Or it could be, oh God, what were those gates called from those ancient races? I'm thinking
the Iconian gates.
Iconian gates. That's what I was thinking. It could have been that too. So,
well, I mean, like I don't know. I mean, they are on the outskirts of the Gamma Quadrant. It could be some kind of weird. I also had to go into my mind. Maybe he's a changeling and he just has some weird technology he just stumbled upon.
I know. I'm wondering if we're going to get more information about this Carl guy, but I guess we'll find out. After some banter back and forth, Georgiou decides to go through and go through the door. So, and then she goes aboard this Discovery, and she is in front of
Captain Kelly.
Captain Kelly and crew. So we are now back in the Mirror Universe. Back aboard
and back
Prime,
in time.
Prime Universe, yeah, back in time too. Back in Prime Universe, through Killian Stamets and Adira, get the play the distress call, and it's a Kelpian, and they are basically say their vehicle is stranded and was contacted 6 months ago by a Starfleet ship, the Genera, USS Genera, I think, and they've been 2 weeks away from rescue, but it never arrived, and so they were trying to get more dilithium when this happened. So this is obviously a century old, so it's before the burn.
Yeah, they said it happened a little bit before the burn.
So so they were investigating a dilithium nursery in the nebula, so where all the baby dilithium are born.
All the baby dilithiums with their pacifiers and weird Klingon breast milk.
Yeah, so until he says, well, we should tell the Admiral, but Stru's like, nah, let's wait till we have more information. And then he goes, everyone leaves, and he's like staring at this Kelpian woman, so he's kind of got the hots for her or something.
Oh yeah, she's a sexy Kelpian.
Well, I haven't seen a Kelpian in a while. So yeah, and then we back on the Mirror Universe, Mirror Discovery. Yeah, we find out that she's back in time, and she's kind of like Killy is giving her information, but she's like, "Oh, this is when this happens, or this is when that happens." So
it's the day that Michael betrays her
with Lorca. Unfortunately, we do not get Lorca at all.
Oh, I was really wanting to see some Lorca. Although we did get Rika Sharma as the really mean security officer. She didn't have any lines, but she was there. I was like, oh, look, there she is.
Yep. And
hopefully she gets to talk next episode.
She basically we get the information that we know that Lorca is going to betray her and also Michael Burnham is probably going to is sleeping with Lorca, so she's probably going to betray Georgiou too. So this is all happening, and we get a whole bunch of things where they go to the mess hall, and they're all having drinks and partying. And when they show up, she sits there with Michael, and they're having drinks. And one of the Kelpians mess up serving one of the officers, and he gets turned into food. And this is where Georgiou sees Saru, and she feels something for Saru, and decides that instead of when Michael wants to kill Saru, that she says, "Oh no, I'll take him. He's mine."
Well, it's weird. It's like her taking Saru because Michael wanted to execute Saru, which is weird because that wouldn't have happened in the original timeline because Saru was taking care of our Michael on the Shinzon. Not the Shinzon, the Shinzo. Shinzon's a Picard clone.
Yeah. My thing is more of Georgiou feeling mercy, and she's sort of unsettled in her universe. She's trying to fit back in that role of being Emperor and trying to fit in the role of being, a Terran. But because she's been in Prime Universe, she's a little more softer, it seems, or at least she has a different outlook on things.
She's growing, even though when she's in our universe, she just wants to be cutthroat and everything. But she's growing soft spot and learning. I mean, they view it as weakness in their universe, but learning about your enemy and understanding them is kind of a important thing to do. And that they just seem like, oh, we're just gonna kill our enemy, not learn.
Right.
And learning about them is a sign of weakness. I'm like, okay, that's odd. I mean, don't you want to know how to defeat them better? I don't know.
Yeah. So later on, further down, Georgiou is now alone in her quarters with Saru. Saru is serving her, combing her hair and stuff like that, and she starts talking to Saru about the madness or whatever that takes over the Kelpians, which is called the Varai. Vaharai. And Saru's like, I'm surprised you even know what that means. Like, that's like, nobody knows what that is. And she goes, I know a lot of things, don't worry. And then it says, I want you to be like my eyes and ears, and tells me what's going on. And basically says, yeah, Burnham is going to try to betray you. So that's pretty clear. So they're going to go to this inauguration of the or christening of the Chiron, their giant flagship, and which we saw in
season 1.
Season 1, you're right. And so there's a fight between a couple people, and it was kind of a dumb scene. I'm not really sure what that did for anything, to tell you the truth. And they're in the shuttle bay, and they have this dramatic performance, and they show this.
Felt very like medieval times. Yeah, like this old play of how the emperor conquers, and it just felt so out of place in the 22nd century.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting.
Well,
I mean, I'm not dogging it. I mean, it was they had aerial acrobatics from Cirque du Soleil, but presented as a medieval style propaganda piece.
Well, we get this. Georgiou's all done up. She's got this big gold cloak. She's got this huge crown that she wears, and when she stands behind the Chiron when it's revealed, or the Charon when it's or no, it's called Charon. Sorry, when it's revealed, it looks pretty amazing. It's an amazing scene, to tell you the truth.
It's great because really it's a big circle in her crown, so
it's shining right through.
The sun shines right through. It's kind of perfect.
Yeah,
it's like they designed the crown to do that shot.
And during that, Stamets tries to stab Georgiou, but Georgiou gets a jump on him, and then she makes us during her speech, and then she kind of walks off, and Burnham you can tell she's upset by this whole thing, and because she's part of this coup, and then she's all hail Emperor Georgiou, kind of to cover it up. But then next scene later, Burnham takes off, and that's when she's stopped by Killy and Georgiou, and basically it's we know you're behind this whole thing. and they're like, "You have to kill, you have to kill Michael." And she almost cuts her head off, but stops just short, and then says, "No, I did this before. I'm not going to do it again. Put her in the agonizer." And that's where we kind of leave off this episode.
Pretty much, but Michael keeps calling her on how weak she is and how she's going to get killed because everyone's going to see that she's sparing her daughter.
Right. I don't know, Dave. What'd you think about this episode, Terra Firma Part 1?
God, it's just so much fun seeing the characters get to play their mirror universe parts. Michael never got to be evil Michael in season 1, so I actually
never got evil.
I actually really enjoyed seeing evil Michael.
She does good. Yeah, she does very good.
I mean, Sonequa Martin Green's a fantastic actress, and like evil Michael's lines aren't very cringy. They're just the evil Michael, and it's great. I really loved almost everything about the Mirror Universe. You know what I mean? Like the fight scene was just like typical Mirror Universe thing, like the thing in the hallway that you're just like trying to take the rank or whatever. I'm like,
right.
It's just typical Mirror Universe, like trying to claw your way to the top crap. It just seems like we've talked about this before. It's like, how does any work ever get done if everyone's always just trying to claw their way to the top and like kill? It just doesn't seem like it would work.
I agree.
As a society, I mean, you're just always trying to kill the person next in line. It just is a very bizarre way of doing things. But at the same time, I simultaneously hate it because we're taking a 2-episode diversion from what the main plot of the show is. There's so much stuff they could be covering. They could tell us more about the temporal Cold War by like actually making that part of the plot of the show. They could tell us more about the signal, the distress signal. Although that's coming from the nebula. Although I think it's probably going to be Discovery because of the Calypso short, and a lot of people are thinking that as well too. I don't know. It's just disappointing that this episode is so good. Like, I mean, after I had a lot of complaints at the beginning, but the episode just got so good, and Giorgio got to be back in her element, and I love seeing Michelle Yeoh being in her element, being like the confident, like just cunning person that she is. I loved her at the beginning of the season when she was all cutthroat, and I've been getting annoyed with her the last couple episodes because she's been kind of more mopey and she's kind of just turning herself up to like 11 or 12, and that's feeling kind of hokey. But when she's at her normal, just 10%, or 100%, it's great. And she's back at it this episode, and I love it a lot. It's great performances all around. It's fun as hell. Like they're changing the timeline completely, so it almost seems like it's a Q. That's why I'm kind of leaning toward it being a Q, because it's a Q like fantasy, where like it's real danger, but she's not really in that time. She's just in some construct that he created, because Colbert dies, and Colbert doesn't die till Lorca kills him in that original.
Not really sure why the spear data would know where a Q was. I would see more. It would know where a portal was, or some kind of being that could offer on that planet. Maybe
that planet is like
it's Trelane,
a focal point for the Q continuum. You know what I mean? Like it's like a natural nexus to the Q continuum. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, because they couldn't find any real life, and I don't think Q ever comes up as life particularly.
Yeah.
I mean, it very well not be a Q, but it definitely feels Q-ish, because I mean, maybe she's only got a 5% chance of making it out, and her being cured of whatever it is. Maybe she's got to show that she's grown as a human being and she's better than, the rest of her mirror universe people, and that'll show her as a good human, and she'll get cured because she's a good human. Very much like Q. I mean, like he puts humanity up on trial. First episode of TNG, and he's always like, challenging humanity to be better. And this kind of is a similar challenge to Giorgio, maybe, to be better. And that's
it hasn't been stated, though.
I mean, it hasn't been stated, but it's sort of implied, maybe. I don't know. That's just how I'm reading it personally, which is what's making me think it's Q. But knowing this is Discovery and how they don't like relying on old things, it could just be its own thing, which I'm totally open to. How about you?
Yeah, so this episode, a lot of things I did like. I liked... okay, let me map out first. One, although the Mirror Universe is fun for a lark, I hate especially the first season where they spent like, I don't know, 5 episodes or 4 episodes.
Yeah, they spent 4 episodes
in Mirror Universe. It was just far too long, and it really wore thin. And I'm kind of like, oh my god, can we please not go back to the Mirror Universe? And here we are again. So that being said, I think this Mirror Universe was shot so much more better and interesting than all of first season. It looked more grand. It looked more intense. It looked everything seemed far better. I don't know what it was. Maybe just the director who did this episode, but it didn't look as cheesy as the first season did to me. I felt like everything on the first season was of the Mirror Universe. It definitely felt like it was like on a sound stage. Like it felt like movable parts and stuff like that. Like it wasn't real. Something about it just never sat right with me. That whole first season.
Yeah, so. They were just bizarrely redressed sets.
Yes, exactly. So, and I know
but they're also just using the Discovery set because they're just on the Discovery. So.
But they did a couple things to make it look far more interesting and far more dramatic, I suppose, than what we've seen before. Like I said, even the scene where she's getting off the shuttle bay when she first shows up in that world, that looked far more impressive. So, anyways, the Carl character, whoever he is, very interesting, very like Star Trek-ish. Just some weird portal with a weird entity that kind of masks itself to look like something that they would know or something like that. So very interesting. I love the dialogue between Kovic and Culber in the beginning, talking about this Lieutenant Commander Yor in the Temporal War. I thought that was great. I hope we get some more information on that. I doubt we will, but who the hell knows? So that was cool to kind of like tying up some loose ends there. And I don't know. I mean, and we're seeing a lot of like the other crew kind of like spring into gear and they're working together, and it's not just all about Michael Burnham. I mean, yes, she does show up, but it's different. It's like we're getting more of the other crew, which I've wanted so much. So
same here. So
overall, really enjoyed this episode. Really well done. I just didn't want to go back to the Mirror Universe. I'm so tired of the Mirror Universe, and I only can think that because of these 2 episodes, Georgiou is going to get her cure somehow, however that works out. I don't know, and that she is going to leave this time, and she's going to go back into whatever time she goes into to do the Section 31 show. So she'll be leaving this. I think these 2 shows will be her getting written off the show, Discovery.
That's what it seems. That's what it seems like to me. Because I mean, I knew that there's going to be. It's basically something I called at the end of last season. I'm like, because in the season finale, I was like, well, if she's going to the future, they're going to have to do something.
How could she be Section 31?
Yeah, they're going to have to find some way to send her back. So they're just going to like spend a couple episodes to send her back or write her off the show. I'm just like, okay.
Or maybe she'll be Section 31 in the future. I don't really know. I mean, maybe she'll come back. I mean, but it seems like that would be the logical place to put her. But who the hell knows?
I mean, I guess maybe that portal can send her back in time without. But I don't know. It's just weird. Have they destroyed the Guardian of Forever? If that's like, since I just feel like they're forgetting about all their different time travel things they can do in Star Trek. Because it's not just ship-made time travel. You can also do the, fly around the sun, go back in time. And it's just, it's just kind of bizarre how they've treated time travel in Star Trek. In TOS, they had the spin-off series they were trying to do or whatever, where they just go back in time like it's a normal thing they do. Mm-hmm. And then in the movies, they make it more difficult. Oh, we got to do this difficult maneuver around the sun. We do they did it in the TOS show, too, in the Air Force pilot episode. But they made it seem like going back in time was pretty normal for Star Trek stuff to do. And then it became like more difficult. And then it didn't seem like it was like super common until like the 29th century, where we've got like the time cops. I mean, the Recruit 7 of 9, the Relativity. And then now it's outlawed. But there's other ways to use time travel. We've got the Guardian Forever. We've got Q's. We've got
Iconian Gates.
I don't know can they travel through time?
I don't know. I don't. I'm not that clear on what accounting and gates can do, but
They're just instant transporters, basically. They just walk through and you're there.
but maybe if somebody knew how to work the dials, right?
Maybe. Maybe.
We don't know. So I don't know. So I just I found this episode really entertaining. I just wish we'd stay away from your universe, but here we are. So buckle up. We got a whole nother episode of Mirror Universe. Just I guess they just can't get away from it. They just love it. They just love getting back into that story. So
yeah, but I just hate that they ignore the rest of their story to tell a side story. There's it just was frustrating me so much about new Star Trek. We've got 16 episodes or 10 episodes in Picard's case. Okay, we've got a singular story we need to tell, and then they avoid telling it. They avoid telling it. They avoid telling it. They avoid telling it. Oh crap, we ran out of episodes. Okay, now we've got to fit it all in the last 2 episodes. All of our plot for all of the seasons got to be crammed into the last 2 episodes, and it's not going to feel fulfilling or meaningful or anything. It's just going to feel rushed and unsatisfying, like season.
Or they'll leave it a cliffhanger to season 4.
We haven't had a cliffhanger yet.
Well,
I mean, we kind of did, but
when Enterprise showed up, everyone was like, "What's this about?" And then we didn't know really what the fate of the crew was going to actually be. I mean, we knew they'd survive, but we didn't know if they made it.
But they haven't been like the TNG or the DS9 cliffhangers, like the ones that were just like,
right.
I mean, they're similar, but not exactly the same. In a way. So, I don't know.
So I guess my feeling is it was a well done episode. I enjoyed the episode. I am getting, cause like, can we just get to the point, people? Why are we doing everything else but that? Like, why are we just jumping around? So it's like, let's do story just for story's sake and not like focus on the main plot of the story. So
yeah, I mean, like if this was like I've said every other season of Star Trek Discovery and Picard, like if these were 26 episode seasons, yeah, one-off episodes are good and fine, and you kind of need that to break things up. I mean, Supernatural is kind of a good way to look at it. Supernatural ran for 15 seasons. Most of the seasons were 20-something episodes long. They had like 4 or 5 main plot episodes a season, and then the rest of them were kind of filler. Just bad guy of the week or whatever. I mean, sometimes maybe more that were like actual for the plot, but that's how they arranged it. But in a show like Discovery, when you have so much fewer episodes, I feel like you got to tell the story you're trying to tell, and
yeah, right.
It feels like they just avoid it at all costs, and I think that's what's getting us so hung up, is that it's so frustrating that they're ignoring the story, and then by the time they finally get to it, it's not satisfying.
Well, and this is unfortunately, we're sensing the pattern here with these writers for Star Trek. It's see it Picard, we saw it in the last 2 seasons of Discovery. It's like they cannot just focus on the main plot and tell like a really long
epic story.
Yeah, 10 to 13 episode. It's got to be, let's go over here now for something weird. Let's do it. It's like, why are you doing that? So I don't know. It's weird. I don't get it, but.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just. I mean, like it's frustrating because this episode was really good. One of the better ones this season, I think. It was a lot of fun. They just had a lot of dumb things happen at the beginning, and then it's just like, we're getting sidelined from the story again. Last episode was a side quest. This episode and next episode are a side quest. I'm just like, so many side quests this season.
I know.
Like, where's the main story, please?
I know. I get it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This is just one of those things we're just gonna have to just get used to their writing, and it just goes all over the place.
It's like don't even like just let it be episodes. If you're not gonna tell a main story, you're not gonna have a great.
Yeah, I know. Just do one episode after me.
Yeah, just make it like Star Trek, where each episode's its own thing and it doesn't really connect, and it's just the crew. But they're trying to do both, and it's not working. It doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great as standalone episodes. Sometimes they don't feel, because it's an overall plot. So it's not like, I'm going to watch this one episode again. You know what I mean? Because it's still part of this big plot thing. The only episode that really stands on its own still is like the Harry Mudd episode from season 1.
Well, that was just so much fun, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the only real solo episode that kind of is completely out of context for everything else. Because it was just a fun romp.
I still like this episode. I was not happy we went back to the Mirror Universe. And I thought they did a great job with it. Like I said, I think visually, Mirror Universe looked way better than it looked all first season. I never got into the Mirror Universe. I mean, the TOS one had its like, it was interesting, but I was like, okay, Spock with the goatee, whatever, And then Deep Space Nine was just, it was really fucking weird.
I just
Kira trying to sleep with herself, it was
that
really
was probably the highlight of the Mirror Universe in Deep Space.
It was so weird. Everything was so weird about that Mirror Universe. And what do they call O'Brien? Happy? Smiley, yeah.
Smiley. In Deep Space Nine, I felt like it outweighed its welcome, and they only did it like 6 times. I think they did it every season except one, and it felt like it just wore out its welcome.
And they just kept on finding new ways to mess up with their transporter.
They could just transport into the Mirror Universe. I mean, like,
it was so bizarre.
I guess they did it originally, but I mean, they just had it down to a science without an accident. They just knew how to transport over, just configuring the transporter. It was kind of like it just got so easy to transfer universes. Yeah, I mean, it just felt like it overstayed its welcome then, and they did. So we're now going to have, in 3 seasons of Discovery, we're going to have 6 episodes in the Mirror Universe, which is as many as Deep Space Nine did.
Yeah, I mean, and at least Enterprise did it. I think Enterprise probably did it the most fun.
Oh, yeah. Because it tied in with
tied into the Tholian web.
We got some like Gorn.
Yep. There's some cool stuff they did. Yeah.
And it was a 2-parter. That's all it needed to be. It was a lot of fun. I mean, that's probably what my favorite 2-parter in Enterprise. They did. They just did it really well.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, man. Yeah, like I said, next episode it's going to be more of this. So, I mean, maybe we'll get some. I'm more interested in Carl than what happens to Georgiou here. I mean, it's like there'll be shenanigans. There'll be all this treachery and subterfuge with the Empire and the Terran Empire and stuff like that. But I frankly don't care.
Yeah, that's the problem with Discovery. It's like they take us and Picard. They take us on these sidebars that I just don't care about. I care about the temporal Cold War. I'd love to hear more about that. I care about Carl. What the hell is Carl? Because he's immediately interesting. Because is he a Q? Is he not? What is he?
I want to find about the burn.
Yeah, like what about the burn? What about anything the show has been trying to set up? And
what about Barb?
What about Barb? What about Morn? Who's only in one episode.
What about Morn?
What is he doing? Is he just back at the bar drinking? He saw his friends get eaten by the worm. He's just like, nah, I'm just gonna drink. Does this new Morn have a hot wife like the old Morn from Deep Space Nine? Is he? How much latinum does he have in his stomach?
I know. I just.
Why can't we see any Ferengi? What happened to the Borg? Are the Klingons still around? I mean, I'm even desperate for Klingon. Just like what's happening other than the Emerald Chain? That's kind of I don't know. Like it's like they also didn't do anything with that revelation that the Andorian gave us last episode with the Emerald Chain's running out of lithium. No shit, Sherlock. Everyone's running out of it.
At least the Emerald Chain has some interesting aspects to it, so I'd like to see more of that.
I mean, I'd love to see it because it's just the new version of the Orion Syndicate, which I'm really glad there's Orion running it in this show, whereas in Deep Space Nine, the Orion Syndicate gets talked about a lot in the last 2 seasons, and we don't see an Orion the entire run of the show.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about this Emerald Chain is that Osiris' ship looks just like a piece of junk. So I'm not really.
It doesn't look like anything all that spectacular. Yeah, it just everything in the future just looks like generic science fiction ship. It doesn't nothing.
Let's just slap a bunch of cubes and cones together. I would like to see some cool ship designs, and it's like the Trek Yard guys. They must be like, what is going on here?
Well, I mean, we had the episode where they first get to Federation headquarters, and we get a couple of shots of the ships, and then we don't see them ever again.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I don't know, man.
I don't know. It's just kind of.
It is weird that we don't get more interesting things. So,
I mean, there's just so much they could do this season, and they're just like, let's not do the interesting things.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, man. Well, let's wrap this one up, buddy. We'll find out more, but let's hope that at least it's entertaining ride, even if we don't like going into the Mirror Universe.
Well, this part 1 of Terra Firma was very entertaining after we got to the Mirror Universe. I hated that we went there, but it was extremely entertaining and a lot of fun. So I'm hoping they continue that fun into next episode. So at least, even though it's a side quest, it'll hopefully at least be a fun side quest.
Mm-hmm. All right. Exactly. All right, guys. Well, if you have different thoughts, different ideas, please hit us up. You can email us at synthaholics@yahoo.com. You can also talk to us on our Facebook group page, Facebook.com/groups/synthaholics. We'd love to hear from you there. And if you want to tweet at us, you can hit us up at Synthaholic Duo on Twitter. And if the show is something you'd like to support, please go to our Patreon.com/Synthaholics. That'd be a great way to help us too. All right, Dave. Until next week, a little more Discovery, a little more Mirror Universe.
More Mirror Universe.
No. All right, well, until then, guys, live long and prosper, one and all.
Well, McCoy, my boy, come mix me a drink. Before the night's over, I'll puke in the sink, and we'll cry till we laugh, and we'll both shit our pants. You're the best drinking friend I ever had.
Woo. It's such a weird feeling to both love and hate the episode at the same time. Whereas before other episodes, it's like, I didn't like it, or it was pretty good. But this one, I'm just like, Yeah,
I know. I don't know. It's frustrating that that they had to go to the Mirror Universe. I really didn't want to go there. So, but
I mean, I think in season 1, I was like, I hope they never ever go back to the Mirror Universe ever again. Please, for the love of God, don't let us go back there for the rest of Discovery's run.
Yeah.
And there we are. I mean, if they bring out Lorca next episode, I'm going to be pretty happy. I love Lorca. I don't know if they can get Jason Isaacs for one episode though.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll just keep referencing him over and over and over again because it's going to be.
Where'd Lorca? Yeah. He's in the mop room.
Oh yes, he's running away. He's running away on his ship.
Yeah, I know.
I just don't know what this is doing. What is her reliving her past, kind of, sort of, in a queue? It can't be her actually reliving her past because it's changed, and that would change the events of season 1 of Discovery if that were true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't know. We never cut back to our universe at the end, so we don't know if anything has changed.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know, man.
It's just so frustrating watching this week to week.
It is, and you know what? I thought this show was a much needed improvement. I thought I enjoyed it. There's a lot I did like, and I liked that it was more of an ensemble cast this week, and it was more. Yeah. There's much more interesting parts to it. Just like I said, Mirror Universe just never did for me. I mean, it was like a curiosity at best, when it showed up on an episode. So
yeah, for sure. I love Georgia though. I love her. She's such a great character. She's a lot of fun.
She has a lot of fun, and but I don't know. The characters are so weird on this. It's like Tilly hugging Giorgio. I was like, what? Like, why?
She just poured soup on you.
She's been nothing but a bitch to you from the very beginning. He's like, I love you anyway.
I'm going to kill her with kindness.
You bitchy old bag.